What up, YouTube? This is Steven Talbot. This is Tabby Rex. Today we're going to talk about the Sony press conference for the Tokyo Game Show. So, pretty much how this happened was for me. Can I give you the backstory of it all? I was kind of playing Call of Duty with my friends for a very long time, and we were playing all ages of the night. I was playing with my friend Jesse at like 2 a.m. in the morning, and I noticed the Tokyo Game Show was happening pretty much at the same time. Like I looked on Twitter, I noticed like they were showing new Vita colors, and I was like, oh, there's probably maybe a press conference happening. Found the press conference and started kind of watching it at 2 a.m. in the morning, and it lasted like 3 o'clock in the morning. So it lasted, quite a while, middle of the night. And for me, like, kind of the week before, Sony just had their big September 7th press conference, kind of talking about the PlayStation, new PlayStation Pro and also the PlayStation Slim. And I really wasn't impacted by that. I really wasn't in love with that message by Sony. And I wanted to see how Sony was going to react kind of to the Japanese audience, because really at the end of the day, for Sony, like that is one of their main audience. Like they are a Japanese company to begin with. And so this for, if you don't know anything about the Tokyo Game Show, kind of dating back, Tokyo Game Show used to be real bigger. Actually, it was bigger probably than E3 in a lot of sense, because a lot of these companies were Japanese. Like you had Nintendo, you had Sega, and you had Sony, of course. And Sony still kind of takes pride as being a Japanese company, and so they want to show a lot of things to their Japanese audience and kind of show their message to their audience as well. And so, honestly, the Tokyo Game Show is kind of one of those interesting things. Like you get a lot of Japanese only Pacific type things, and then you also get some nice nuggets every once in a while. Usually you don't get like mind blowing big type events. Usually that's for E3, but sometimes we get some good stuff. So, but there was some really good, cool stuff to see and kind of understand about. So I thought the first biggest thing was the thing I saw first on Twitter was basically more colors for the PlayStation Vita. So basically what we get from that is the PlayStation Vita still lives. Which is quite interesting. Like if you think about kind of like the E3s and kind of in terms of like American conferences, like really we don't see pretty much PlayStation Vita really getting talked about. Occasionally at the PlayStation, their PlayStation conference, kind of for their PlayStation event, usually in December they usually talk about it, but not in E3 and usually they don't give them time. So there's been a lot of questions like, is it almost dead? Is it on the verge of that? But I think, honestly, Sony gave a really good indication that it's alive and it's kicking, because with the new colors that they're producing for Japan, that means they're still producing Vitas. Which means usually if you don't understand gaming, how it works, usually we consider a console dead right when they stop producing consoles in a lot of sense. That means there's no interest in that console, and we're going to stop producing them. And so usually if you make new styles for a specific console, that means there's more production. And that makes sense. It makes definitely sense for Japan, because there's been reports in Japan that the PlayStation Vita actually sometimes their numbers sometimes eclipsed even the Xbox One at times, which is real interesting to think about. But it's good to see that the PlayStation Vita is strong. Even throughout the conference, we saw PlayStation Vita. We saw occasionally you'll see games for PS4 and PlayStation Vita, and we saw that. And so that was good. We didn't really see Pacific games, but we saw that they're still kind of doing the PlayStation 4 with Vita stuff as well. So I thought that was one real interesting nugget. The second one was the fact that Kojima went on stage for the Tokyo Game Show. I think it makes sense for a lot of sense. Kojima is one of the legendary Japanese producers, and Sony just bought them, so Sony pretty much has to shove them off. So that makes kind of sense. It was interesting to see if you get more than what we got at E3. So we got E3, we got this real nice video about his latest work, Death Stranding. But it was really interesting because the fact that he went into a little more detail. He basically confirmed that it basically was an open world type game, a lot of action type sense, and also that it was going to use some type of online type features. And so those are the first real interesting details about it. I think the one thing to really take away about it is this game is not coming anywhere close. I think this game at most maybe 2020. We'll probably see this game coming out in 2020, maybe 2022 even. If we, the people that really believe Kojima just takes forever and forever, that he is a perfectionist. And so, but I thought it was really cool to see that and hear some of the small details about those games, because I thought that was real interesting. I think another takeaway is we saw there was going to be a Final Fantasy console for the PlayStation, for the PS4, which I thought was cool. Although I thought one of the best tweets of the night for that conference was basically this was 10 years, kind of late, pretty much 10 years in the making of this, because it took 10 years to make the Final Fantasy 15 game. And so I thought that was kind of funny for them to kind of say that. And so those are all great things. I thought you saw other great games. You saw Top Shot Golf, which was great. I liked some of the mini games. I think this game is going to do really well both in America and also in Japan. I think there was other really, really cute games to see. I saw this game by Tokyo Games, Studio Japan. Pardon me. That was basically is a VR game called V. That was real intriguing. I think there's like a commercial for it on the Tokyo. If you go to Sony PlayStation Japan website, PlayStation Japan's YouTube page, you can find it and check it out. I think it's like a kind of a builder type game in VR, which is kind of cool. And then I thought what was kind of cool, in terms of gaming, I think they did a commercial for Horizons, which is their big game. I think they're really trying to push. They showed a demo of The Last Guardian, but Horizons, I think, really took the cake. They show more scenery for Horizons. I thought was really interesting. They showed desert for the very first time, which even tells me that this game is even bigger than even I think what I thought it was going to be, because I thought they would just have one or two terrains, but it has multiple terrains and all that. It showed more of the story and just really makes me excited. They showed a date for it. They showed March 2nd, 2017 for Japan, which means that's probably the date for America. So that means this game is coming really, really soon. Maybe the last time they ever pitched for it will be the PlayStation conference when they do it, when they do their big convention coming up soon. And so that's cool. That's really cool to see. In terms of other interesting technology I thought one of the most interesting things about this conference overall is how they were going to approach VR, because VR is intimate. Like, they really have to push VR. And it's really interesting how all the different VR companies are really pushing VR right now. And I think Sony has to use this podium to kind of talk about and showcase VR and what they're going to do with kind of in terms of how they're going to deal with it in terms of the Japanese audience. And I think they did a really good job. I think they also showed that VR, I think overall they showed that VR is something way bigger than PlayStation. I think Sony is fully invested in this in a lot of sense, because they showed a music video for about music video compilation with Resident Evil and one of these bands. And then they showed a lot of different home type things that you could see. And then they also showed kind of different experiences. One of which was a schoolgirl type thing. Like, you're like, the scroll was like in your house helping you with homework and type stuff, which is kind of like this real nice daily life type, very anime-esque. I think it would actually do really well in America, surprisingly. And so I thought they showed a lot of different things that I never really saw for VR up to this point. I think they also had one of the best VR commercials. Please go check it out. Go to Japan, Sony Japan's YouTube page and go check it out. It's like their VR commercial. It's like a 2-minute commercial. I thought it was one of the most funnest because they had a lot of different. It showed games and also showed responses from the Japanese community, which was really cool, because I feel like the Japanese people in general are like one of the most like enthusiastic, most interesting, overreacting type people, and it made for a really fun video. And so I thought that was really cool. And so overall, I think they approached VR really well. It'll be interesting to see how VR does in Japan. I'm not certain. I think PlayStation VR has the biggest chance in Japan, because it's interesting to see how the different approaches, different companies approach VR in general. And it's interesting to see Sony's approach to VR, especially at this conference. Overall, I gave it a pretty good solid score, I think. I feel like they carried out a lot of things. They showed a lot of cool Japanese, focused things. And I liked the Japanese mission videos. I thought it was really interesting. And so I thought it was good. I thought it was from going from last week, with September 7th, having this dismal showing to having this really good showing. And I thought I just wanted to really give you my opinions. I wanted to kind of give you that, because I don't think many people are going to talk about the Tokyo Game Show at all. So there's my 2 cents about the Tokyo Game Show. Guys, what do you think about it? Oh, by the way, you can check it out if you go to, once again, if you go to Sony Japan's YouTube page, you can also, there's an English version of it. I think there's like subtitles with it. Go check that one out. You can see all the different ones. They even have their different commercials. I think it's like an hour and 28 minutes. If you want to check that out, go check that out. Guys, what do you thought about the Tokyo Game Show? Did you like it? Was there anything special that really sticked out to you? For me, I really liked the Gundam. They announced like a Gundam game, which I love Gundams. Really love Gundams. I'm glad they're making that in Japan. Hopefully it comes to America. So a lot of great stuff there. So what are your guys' thoughts? And thank you for keeping with me and bearing with me. And have a great day and great week. All right, bye.